Friday night at La Estrella Roger always felt like a war zone. April 11th, 2014. 7:58 in the evening. Every seat in the dining room was taken. The lobby was jammed with at least 20 people clutching buzzers and checking their phones. The air smelled like grilled skirt steak, roasted chilies, and butter hitting hot pans. You could hear the low murmur of conversations beneath the soft drum of boleros drifting from the speakers. This was my father's kingdom. La Estrella Roger was the restaurant he had dragged out of nothing 3 decades earlier. He started as a dishwasher in someone else's kitchen. Now he owned this place outright, and he loved it more fiercely than anything. At least, that's how it always felt. And on the busiest night of the month, I was about to blow it all up. I was 6 hours into my shift on the line. My station was pasta and seafood, the oddball corner in a mostly Mexican kitchen. On my side of the range, I handled the garlic shrimp with white wine, the whole roasted snapper, the poblano cream fettuccine. Tickets were spitting out of the printer so fast that the paper curled onto the floor in long ribbons. It was pure chaos, but the good kind, until I made a mistake. Order for table 16. Huachinango entero a la diablo. Arjol red snapper in a spicy tomato chili broth. I could cook that dish in my sleep. I had probably plated it more than 1,000 times. But that night, my brain was running on fumes. I seared the fish, finished it in the oven, spooned the sauce over it, and out of pure habit, I nestled it against a mound of cilantro lime rice instead of the plain steamed rice we always paired with that plate. Tiny detail. Easy fix on any other night. Nobody would have cared. But the man at table 16 was Miguel Rander, a food critic for the Los Angeles Chronicle, and my father caught my mistake. Before the plate ever left the pass, why, his voice cut through the clatter of pans like a blade. I looked up from the shrimp I was tossing. He was standing at the window, my plate in his hands, his jaw clenched so tight the veins in his neck stood out like cords. "What is this?" he demanded. I wiped my hands on my apron and stepped closer. "Red snapper for table 16, I said, with cilantro rice. The second the words left my mouth, my stomach turned to ice. I grabbed the wrong pan. I stammered, "I'll replate it. 2 minutes, you'll fix it." He slammed the plate down so hard the fish slid sideways, splashing up onto the heat lamps. "Do you have any idea who's sitting at that table?" he shouted. "Do you?" The kitchen froze. Tomas, our sous chef, was suspended mid-slice. The guy on the grill stopped flipping carne asada. The fry cook held a basket of fries in the air, all dripping back into the fryer. Everyone just stared. "Miguel Rander is at table 16, my father said. "The Miguel Rander, and you were going to send him the wrong plate." "It was a mistake," I said quietly. "I'll fix it right now." "A mistake," he barked. "Camila, you've been on my line for 3 years. 3 years. And you still make mistakes like this?" "Everyone messes up," I muttered. "I just need 2 minutes." "Not everyone," he snapped. He jabbed a finger toward Leo, the grill cook. "Leo doesn't make stupid mistakes. Tomas doesn't make stupid mistakes. Your brother never made stupid mistakes." And there it was, Diego's ghost, hanging over the line like it always did. Diego, who had run this same kitchen for 5 years before opening his own trendy spot on the west side. Diego, the golden child. I couldn't go a single shift without hearing his name invoked like scripture. Diego knew how to handle pressure. My father went on. Diego understood this business. Diego made me proud. I swallowed hard. "I'll redo the plate," I said, reaching for it. He yanked it away from me. "No," he said flatly. "You're done. We're in the middle of service." I protested. "You can't." I said, "You're done." He roared. I heard conversations in the dining room falter, then go quiet. The noise of forks on plates stopped. My face burned so hot I thought my skin might peel away. "I made one mistake," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "One. I can fix it in 3 minutes. It's not just this," he said. "It's every time. You're slow. You're sloppy. You choke when it matters." Do you know how many times I've had to step in and cover for you? That's not fair, I said. You want to talk about fair? He stepped in close enough that I could smell the coffee on his breath. I hired you when nobody else wanted you. I trained you from nothing. I put you on my line before you even knew how to hold a knife properly. And this is how you pay me back. By embarrassing me in front of the most important critic in the city. My eyes stung. But I refused to let the tears fall. Not in my father's kitchen. Not in front of everyone watching. I'm sorry, I whispered. Sorry doesn't help me when a bad review kills this place, he said. His eyes poured into mine like he was trying to see straight through me. You know what your problem is, Camila? You don't have it. You're not built for this. You're not chef material. I don't know why I ever thought you could be. The words hit harder than the plate he had slammed. The kitchen was so quiet we could have heard the mariachi track skipping in the dining room. Get out, he said. I stared at him. What? Get out of my kitchen. You're fired. Take off your apron and go. You can't be serious, I said, my voice cracking. Do I look like I'm joking? He shot back. You're dead weight. I'm not letting you ruin my name. Something in me snapped. Fine. My fingers fumbled as I tore off my apron. I crumpled it into a ball and dropped it onto the steel counter. My hands were shaking. My knees were shaking. I hope this was worth it, I said. His eyes narrowed. What? Humiliating me? In front of your staff? In front of a full dining room? I hope it was worth it. I walked past the line, past Tomas, who stared down at his cutting board like it held the secrets of the universe. Past Leo, who gave me a look that was half pity, half apology, through the swing door and into the dining room, where 40 people suddenly remembered to look at their menus instead of at me. My mother was at the host stand, her hand resting on the reservation book. Her face crumpled when she saw me. Cammy, she started. I didn't stop. I walked out into the cool night air, crossed the cracked parking lot to my beat-up 2007 Honda Civic, and slipped into the driver's seat. For 20 minutes, I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel, completely numb. When I finally drove home to my tiny apartment in Echo Park, I went straight to my bed. She's still on, and only then did I let myself sob. My phone rang at 11:42 that night. Mija, are you okay? My mother's voice was hushed, like she was hiding in the back hallway of the restaurant. Did he tell you to call me? I asked. No, she said. He's still furious. You know how your father gets during service. He doesn't think clearly. The pressure don't defend him, I said. I'm not, she insisted. He shouldn't have done that. Not like that. But he's your father. He loves you. He has a strange way of showing it. There was a long sigh on the other end. Come by tomorrow, she said. Talk to him. He'll calm down. You know he always cools off. No. Why not? I'm not going back, I said. Not tomorrow. Not ever, Camila. Don't be dramatic. Where else are you going to work? That one hurt, because it wasn't a stupid question. I had dropped out of culinary school my second year to learn in the real world at La Estrella Roja. I had no degree, no resume beyond my father's place. Restaurant work was all I knew, and most of that had been under his name. In his shadow, I'll figure something out, I said. Mija. Be reasonable. Good night. Mama, I hung up before she could answer. For 3 days, my life shrank to my laptop and a stack of takeout containers. I applied to every kitchen job I could find within an hour's bus ride. Line cook, prep cook, dishwasher, food runner. I didn't care about the title. I just needed someone, anyone, to say yes. On day 4, my phone finally rang with a number I didn't recognize. This is Camila, I answered, heart pounding. Hello, Camila. This is Roser from Trattoria Rosella in Silver Lake. You sent a resume? I sat up so fast I nearly knocked my laptop off the bed. Yes, I did. You have experience, she asked. Her accent was Italian with a hint of East LA, a strange, but oddly comforting mix. 3 years on the line at La Estrella Roja in Boyle Heights. I said. La Estrella Roja. She repeated. Your last name is Reyes. Is that Hector's place? Yes, And Hector is your father. I hesitated. He is, she chuckled dryly. So when you say you left, am I supposed to hear family explosion? Let's just say we had creative differences. I said. In my experience, she said, that usually means shouting in Spanish and someone throwing a pan. Welcome to the club. My son worked here for 2 years before I kicked him out. You fired your son? I asked. He refused to listen. She said matter-of-factly. Thought he knew more than me. And I've been cooking longer than he has been alive. So I taught him a lesson. He's fine. Opened a sandwich truck. She paused. You still talking to your father? No. Good, she said. Family and business. Aisle and water. When can you start? Trattoria Rosella was nothing like my father's restaurant. The pay was awful. $13.75 an hour. Barely enough to keep the lights on. The kitchen was cramped. The oven door squeaked. And the stove burners had personalities of their own. On a busy night, we might hit 50 covers. But Rosa Bianchi, the owner, was a monster in the best possible way. She had trained in Bologna and worked in polished, intimidating kitchens in Milan before moving to LA and opening a little neighborhood trattoria that most people drove past without noticing. On my second day, she stood over me as I chopped onions. Stop. She said. I froze. What are you doing to that onion? She asked. Chopping it, I said. She shook her head slowly. Murdering it. Who taught you like this? My dad, I said. Well, he taught you wrong, she said flatly. Watch. She took the knife from my hand, repositioned my fingers, and started slicing. Her blade moved fast and precise, never losing contact with her guiding knuckles. Knife doesn't float, she said. Knife kisses the board. Your fingers are not decorations. They are your ruler. You go slow until slow looks fast. For the first week, she made me practice nothing but knife work for an hour before service. Carrots, onions, celery, dice, julienne, brunoise. By the end of 2 months, my knife sounded different on the board. Quicker, cleaner. She showed me how to make pasta from eggs and flour until I could tell by touch whether the dough needed another drop of water. She taught me that a sauce wasn't just a recipe. It was timing and heat and patience. We would stand quietly at the stove, tasting the same simmering pot every few minutes as the flavors deepened and melded together. Cooking is not a race, she said one evening. It is translation. You take ingredients and translate them into feeling. If you go too fast, you lose the meaning. I soaked it all in like parched earth drinking rain. At night, I went home and practiced dough on my tiny kitchen table until my arms ached. I watched cooking demos online until my laptop overheated. I scribbled notes in a B-top spiral notebook. Ratios, tricks, failures, small victories. My father called twice in those first few months. My thumb hovered over the answer button each time. I let both calls go to voicemail and never listened to either. My mother called more often. Your father says you can come back, she would say. He'll put you back on the line. Better pay. It's stupid to throw that away for pride. It's not pride, I would tell her. It's self-respect. You're making barely anything there, she would argue. You could have a real salary at La Estrella or OJ. At what cost? I would ask. And there was always a long, empty stretch of silence after that. 6 months into Rosella, I was running the line on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Rosa trusted me with her sauces, with her risottos, with her specials. You're good, she said one night after service as we shared a cold beer by the back door. You see food the way I see music. You hear the notes. Thank you, I said, my chest tight with something I couldn't quite name. But this place? She waved a hand at the tiny kitchen. It's too small for you. You should go somewhere that will chew you up and spit you out. That's how you see what you're really made of. I like it here, I said. I like having you here, she replied. But I will not be the reason you stay small. When it's time to go, you go. No guilt. 3 months later, I got my chance. The Copperter in Hollywood was the opposite of Rosella. Big, glossy, and ruthless. It was one of those restaurants people posted on Instagram just to prove they had gotten a reservation. The kitchen was a machine, and every person working there knew they were replaceable. I spent a year on that line, 16-hour days, double shifts, burned scars up and down my forearms, band-aids on half my fingers at any given time. I watched chefs get screamed at for plating a dish 30 seconds too slow. I watched people quit mid-service and walk out the back door without looking back. I loved it, not because I liked being yelled at, but because the standards were brutal. The expectations were higher than anything I had ever experienced. And it wasn't just about the food. At Via Caperta, I started paying attention to things I had never really noticed at La Estrella Roja. How often the manager walked the floor with a clipboard, when the servers turned tables, how the bar inventory was tracked, why certain dishes were priced the way they were, and how that affected what people actually ordered. I began to understand something my father had never tried to teach me: the numbers behind the plates, somewhere between folding napkins for the third time and counting portions in the walk-in. A reckless idea started taking shape in my brain. What if I stopped dreaming about running my father's kitchen and built something of my own? What if I took everything I knew, Mexican flavors from home, Italian techniques from Rosa and Via Caperta, and created my own thing? It sounded ridiculous. I was a line cook making $16 an hour, living in a showbox apartment. But the idea wouldn't leave me alone. So I started saving. I cut everything. No nights out. No new clothes. I ate staff meal and $5 bags of rice and beans. Whenever there was an extra shift, I took it. In 18 months, I had managed to tuck away $27,000. It wasn't close to enough to open a restaurant in LA, but it was enough to get taken seriously. I met Daniel Cho at a charity pop-up downtown where Via Caperta had lent me and a few other cooks to help and another chef host a special dinner. He was at the end of the 8-top. I had just served a 5-course tasting menu, Mexican ingredients structured through Italian technique. Mull spiced lamb shoulder with creamy polenta, agnolotti stuffed with slow-braised carnitas, roasted corn panna cotta with lime zest. He wiped the last streak of sauce from his plate with a piece of bread and looked up at me. Who came up with this menu? He asked. I did, I said. He studied me for a long moment. Where did you train? Trattoria Rosella in Silver Lake, I said. Then here at Via Caperta. Before that, my father's place in East LA. What's your father's restaurant? He asked. La Estrella Roja. He raised his eyebrows. I know that spot. Old school, very set in its ways. That's one way to put it, I said. But this, he said, lifting his fork toward the empty plate. This is not old school. This is interesting. Mexican soul, Italian structure. It's fusion. But it's not a gimmick. That's what I'm trying to do, I said. Respect both traditions without turning them into a joke. He smiled. Do you want your own place? The question hit me so hard I almost dropped the tray I was holding. Yes, I said. I do. How much do you have saved? He asked. Just like that. 20-7,000, I said, bracing for the laugh. He did laugh, but not cruelly. You'll need at least 10 times that, probably more. Build out, permits, equipment, working capital. LA doesn't come cheap. I know, I said. I'm not ready yet. But someday. What if I speed that up? He said. I blinked. What do you mean? I invest in restaurants. He said simply. I've put money into 6 in the last 10 years. 4 are still alive. That's a good batting average in this business. I like your food. I like your vision. More importantly, you're not arrogant. You know you don't know everything. He paused. I'll put in 220,000, he said. You put in your 27 and your sweat. I take 40% equity. You keep 60. We split profits accordingly. I stared at him. You're joking. I don't joke about money, he said. Think about it. If you're serious, call me. He slid a card across the table. I stared at that simple white rectangle for a week before my shaking fingers finally dialed his number. 6 months later, we opened Lumber in Culver City. 20-8 seats, a kitchen the size of my old bedroom, a menu of dishes that felt like my whole life on a plate. Chipotle braised short rib tortellini, mole negro risotto, crispy rice arancini with carnitas and salsa verde. The first 3 months were brutal. The rent was high. Payroll was a constant headache. We had some nights where we barely filled half the room. I would lie awake at 3 in the morning refreshing our bank account, feeling nauseous. Then a critic named Elliot Park from the LA Weekly Gazette came in. He ate quietly with a friend, asked no questions, and left without a word. 2 weeks later, his review landed online. Lumber, he wrote, is the rare fusion restaurant that actually fuses something: history, culture, technique. Chef owner Camila Reyes takes the flavors of her Mexican childhood and the discipline of Italian kitchens and creates dishes that are both surprising and inevitable. This is some of the most thoughtful cooking in Los Angeles right now. After that, everything changed. We went from hoping for walk-ins to turning people away at the door. Within a month, we had a 6-week wait list. By month 6, we were finally in the black. At the end of year 1, we did roughly $920,000 in sales. Time to think bigger, Daniel said over coffee one afternoon. We should open another one, different neighborhood, maybe the West Side. I don't know if I'm ready. I said, honestly, you're more ready than most people I back. He said, you actually care about margins. That alone puts you ahead of half the industry. 18 months later, Lumber Santa Monica opened, then Lumber Downtown, then Lumber Pasadena. By year 4, I had 7 restaurants scattered across Southern California, pulling in around $8.7 million a year. By year 6, there were 12 Lumber locations. We had moved into Orange County and San Diego. Total revenue was just over $19 million. I was 29 years old. My father didn't call once during those years. My mother called occasionally, always carefully avoiding the names of my restaurants like they were curse words. La Estrella Roja is okay, she would say. Your father hired a new grill cook. Diego is thinking about a second location. You're working a lot. Yes, I would say. She never asked how many places I had, never asked if I was happy. I think admitting my success out loud would have felt like too much of a betrayal to him, to the story they told themselves. In her 7th year, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Ms. Reyes, this is Linda Huang with Horizon Commercial. I broker restaurant properties. I have a listing I think you should see. I'm not really looking to expand. I said. This is in East LA, she said. Established restaurant, full liquor license, corner lot, parking. The owner wants to retire. He's selling the business and the building together. What's the name? I asked. La Estrella Roja, she said. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I'm sorry, she said. Did I lose you? No, I said slowly. I know the restaurant. You do? The owner, Hector Reyes, he's my father. There was a long silence on the other end. Oh, she said. I had no idea. I pull a list of active operators who've expanded successfully, and your group popped up. I didn't expect a family connection. Does he know you're calling me? I asked. No, I'm reaching out to everyone the same way. He's pretty insistent on selling. Business has been trending down. He wants to cash out while he can. Send me the numbers, I said. The financials were worse than I had braced for. Revenue had dropped nearly 40% in 3 years. Maintenance had clearly been deferred. The equipment list read like a museum inventory. Food costs were high, labor costs higher. On paper, they were barely scraping by. But the lot itself was prime. The building alone was worth close to $1.3 million. The name still meant something in the neighborhood. There was a loyal older clientele you couldn't buy. It was a good investment, even without the history. And with the history, I wanted it badly, not because I needed it. My life was full without him, but there was a dark, petty part of me that wanted to own the thing he had loved more than me, to be able to say, calmly and legally, I literally bought your legacy. It wasn't noble. I knew that. I didn't care. Make an offer? I told Daniel's cousin, our attorney. Grace Cho. Where do you want to land? She asked. The asking is what? I said. $2 million for business, building, and assets. She said, offer 1.7. I said, all cash, 30-day close. No seller financing. That's 300 under. She said, you think they'll bite? Their books are a mess. I said, if they had better options, they would have taken them already. 3 days later, Linda called back. They've accepted, she said, on one condition. Hector wants to meet the buyer before he signs. He's very attached to the place. Wants to make sure it's in good hands. No, I said automatically. Ms. Reyes, tell him the buyer will remain anonymous until closing. I said, not negotiable. If he won't agree, pull the offer. That set off to more weeks of back and forth. His lawyer tried to get a meeting. I refused. Finally, his attorney must have sat him down and shown him the hard math. He signed the purchase agreement. We set the closing date for November 18th, 2021, 3:30 in the afternoon, Grace's office in Century City. The morning of the closing, I dressed like the version of myself my father had never imagined. Black tailored suit, simple silk blouse, hair pulled back tight, no chef coat, no burnt scars on display. I wanted to look like what I was on paper, a businesswoman with a portfolio worth millions. When I got to Grace's office at 3:10, she had already laid out the closing packets in the conference room. She positioned me at the head of the table with my back to the door. You're sure? She asked quietly. This is going to be intense. That's the point, I said. At 3:33, I heard his voice in the lobby, deeper, rough around the edges, but unmistakable. My mother's softer tone floated alongside his. Grace opened the conference room door. And Mrs. Reyes, she said smoothly, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat. The buyer will join us in just a moment. Where are they? My father said impatiently. We were told she's here, Grace said. We'll start. I kept my gaze on the table as they took their seats across from me. These documents finalize the sale of La Estrella Roja, Grace said, sliding papers toward them. We've structured this as an asset purchase. The buyer is acquiring the real property, all fixtures and equipment, the business, and the La Estrella Roja name and trademark. Wait. My father cut in. The buyer is a woman? Yes, Grace said. Who is she? He demanded. What experience does she have? What does she plan to do with my restaurant? Grace looked at me. I nodded. I turned in my chair. My father's expression went from annoyed to confused to something I had never seen before. Shock so total it wiped the color from his face. He grabbed the edge of the table like the room was spinning. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Holler, Popper, I said. Mummer, he started. He cleared his throat. You're the buyer. I am, I said. But how? My mother whispered. Where did you? Grace stepped in smoothly. Ms. Reyes is the founder and majority owner of Lumber Restaurant Group. They currently operate 12 locations across Southern California, with gross revenues just over $19 million annually. She's purchasing La Estrella Roja through that company. My father stared at me like he was waiting for someone to yell cut. 12 restaurants, he said finally. You own 12 restaurants? Yes, I said. Would you like to see them? I slid a portfolio across the table. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside were glossy photos of each location, revenue summaries, clippings from local papers, Elliott Park's review of lumber, a spread from Alley Food, and wine about chefs redefining Los Angeles dining. This is yours, he said. Mine, I said. Well, 60% mine. Daniel owns the other 40. His eyes were still on the pages, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. You were working at that little Italian place, he said. Making what? $13 an hour. That was, 7 years ago? Yes, I said. People grow. He looked up at me, his stare wounded and confused. You couldn't handle my kitchen, he said. You couldn't hack La Estrella Roja. How are you running this? I couldn't handle you, I said, keeping my voice even. That's different. The room went very still. My mother's eyes shone with tears. Why? My father asked finally. Why buy my restaurant? Because it's a smart acquisition, I said. Great corner lot, liquor license, decades of brand recognition. Once I fix the kitchen, remodel the dining room, and rewrite the menu, it'll be one of my top performing stores. Rewrite the menu? His voice jumped an octave. That menu has been the same for 30 years. Those are our family recipes. Your grandmother's recipes? And they're tired, I said. Your sales are down almost 40%. The market has shifted. The menu hasn't. You're barely breaking even. You can't just change everything, he snapped. I won't allow it. You won't have a say, I said calmly. Once the wire clears, it's my restaurant, my call. He shot to his feet. Then I'm not selling. Not to you. Sit down. Hector, his lawyer murmured. We've signed the purchase agreement. I don't care, my father said. He pointed a trembling finger at me. I will not hand my life's work to someone who walked out on me. I leaned forward. I didn't walk out, I said quietly. You threw me out in the middle of a Friday night in front of 40 customers. You called me useless in the one place I wanted to belong. My mother flinched. You made a careless mistake, my father said. On the most important service we'd had in months, I made one mistake, I said. And instead of correcting it or pulling me off the line, you shredded me in front of your staff, in front of paying guests. You didn't just fire me, you humiliated me. You were sloppy, he said. But there wasn't much conviction behind it anymore. I was 22, I said, on my first real station, still learning. You never gave me the space to be new at something. You compared me to Diego every single day. Nothing I did was ever enough. Your brother handled it, he muttered. My brother had your patience, I cut in. He got second, third, and 10th chances. You mentored him. You invested in him. I got one strike. The only sound in the room was my mother's quiet sniffles. But you were right about one thing, I added. What's that? He asked dully. I wasn't cut out to work for you, I said. I was cut out for this. I tapped the folder of restaurant photos. 12 locations, 19 million in revenue, a staff of over 300 people. I built an empire you never imagined, not because of you, but in spite of you. He flinched like I had slapped him. So here's where we are, I said. You sign those papers, walk out with $1.7 million, and retire on your terms. Or you refuse, watch La Estrella Roja slowly bleed out, and end up closing the doors for nothing. Grace glanced at the clock. The offer expires at 5 today, she added. It's now 4:02. If you walk away, Ms. Reyes puts that cash into a different project. There will be no renegotiation. My father stared down at the stack of papers in front of him, his jaw working. What happens to the restaurant if I sign? He asked finally. Exactly, I tear it down to the studs, I said. New equipment, new layout, new concept. I'll keep a handful of your classic dishes, the ones that are still good, and rework them. The rest goes. You're going to destroy everything I built. He whispered. No, I said. I'm going to keep it alive. Your way is dying. Mine is and single quotes T. His attorney leaned and Anne murmured softly in his ear about deferred maintenance, dwindling revenue, the reality of his age and savings. My father's knuckles were white on the table. Finally, he picked up the pen. He signed page after page, each flourish of ink pulling something out of him. When the last signature was done, Grace gathered the stack. Congratulations, Ms. Reyes, she said. You officially own La Estrella Roja. I stood and held out my hand to my father. Thank you for your business, I said. He looked at my hand like it was a hot pan, then took it. His palm was damp. His grip was weaker than I remembered. Can I ask you something? He said hoarsely. Of course. Did you do this to hurt me? He asked. Buying this place, my place. Was that the point? I considered softening it. No, I said. Not the whole point. It's a good asset. It fits my portfolio. But yes, part of me wanted you to know exactly who you threw away. He swallowed. then nodded once. I probably deserve that. You deserve more than that, I said quietly. But I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in winning. My mother stood. Camila, she said softly. Can we talk? Just us? 5 minutes? I looked at Grace. She nodded. We'll handle the wire instructions, she said. I stepped out into the hallway with my mother. Up close, I could see the new lines at the corners of her eyes, the gray threading through her hair. I'm sorry, she said immediately, for all of it, for not saying anything that night, for not calling you after, for pretending nothing happened. I was a coward, okay? I said. That's it? She asked, hurt flickering across her face. Just okay? What do you want me to say? I asked. That it's fine. That I forgive you? I don't. Not yet. What can I do? She whispered. Tell me. I'll do it. There's nothing you can do, I said. That night is done. You can't go back and pick up the phone. You can't go back and tell me I mattered more than his pride. Tears spilled over her lashes. I was scared, she said. Your father, when he gets angry, you were uncomfortable, I said. There's a difference. Scared is when you're in danger. Uncomfortable is when doing the right thing will cost you something. She winced. You could have called me the next day, I said, or the next week. You could have told me you believed in me. Even if he didn't, you didn't. I believe in you now, she said desperately. Look what you've done. Now that there are articles and reviews and money, I said. Now it's safe to believe. She had no answer for that. Are you really going to change everything? She asked after a moment. The colors, the bar, the menu, those recipes, they're your grandmother, your great-grandmother. Then maybe you should have treated me like family when it counted. I said quietly. That's cruel, she whispered. Not as cruel as watching your daughter get fired in front of a room full of strangers and saying nothing. I replied. We stood in silence for a long moment. Will we ever be okay? She asked. I let out a slow breath. Maybe, I said, but words won't fix it. It'll take time and consistency, not just apologies. I walked back into the conference room. They were finishing up signatures and formalities. My father stood by the window, staring out at the hazy grid of Los Angeles. We're done, Grace said. Funds will clear within 48 hours. Keys transfer upon confirmation. I have one request, my father said, still looking out at the city. What is it? I asked. Let me stay 30 days, he said. I'll help your staff with the recipes. Show them how things work. Make sure you don't. He stopped. Destroy it, I offered. He turned toward me, his eyes pleading. Those recipes are 30 years of work, he said. Your mother's hands, my mother's hands. You can't learn them from a binder. I have the binder, I said. You left it in the office. Everything's in there. Quantities, yields, photo plates. It's not the same, he insisted. I'm not arguing that, I said, but I'm not keeping you on. You have 30 days to clear out your knives and personal belongings. After that, the building is mine, and you're not welcome in the kitchen. He looked like I had punched the air out of his lungs. You hate me that much? He asked. I don't hate you, I said, and I meant it. But I don't trust you, and I don't need you. That's what you never understood. You thought I needed your restaurant, your approval. You were wrong. I picked up my bag. The wire will hit your account by Friday, I said. From here on out, if we need to communicate, it goes through lawyers. Camila. My mother said, reaching out. Goodbye, mummer. I said, Popper. I walked out of that office into the cold hallway air feeling strangely light. We closed La Estrella Roger the following week. Over the next 4 months, we stripped it down to bare concrete and drywall, the old heavy booths, the chip tile, the dim yellow lights. I let it all go. The kitchen got new ranges, new refrigeration, a proper dish station, a separate pastry area. We renamed it Estrella Finer. The dining room became warm and modern. Bright tile, natural wood, plants, a bar that finally felt like somewhere you would sit on purpose. We built a serious mezcal program. The music shifted from sad, tinny speakers to a sound system that made the room hum with energy. I kept 5 of my father's dishes. His mole poblano, tightened and refined. His cochinita pibil, ray-plated with care. Stuffed chilies that actually looked as vibrant as they tasted. Everything else was mine. Tlayuda style flatbreads with burrata and salsa matcher, tequila lime scallops over roasted corn puree, oxtail rag with hand-cut pappardelle and guajillo, churro bread pudding with mezcal caramel. I hired a new crew, young cooks who were hungry to learn and unafraid to ask questions. I paid them well for this industry, $18 an hour to start. Health insurance, 2 days off in a row, and a rule that nobody got screamed at over a plate of food. We reopened on June 2nd, 2022. 2 weeks later, there was already a line out the door an hour before we opened. Caroline Mendez from the Los Angeles Herald came in quietly one night. Her review was out 3 days later. Estrella Finer, she wrote, is what happens when a daughter takes her father's legacy and refuses to either worship or erase it. Chef owner Camila Reyes honors the bones of La Estrella Roger while building something entirely new on top of them. The result is electric, emotional, and utterly delicious. Within a month, we had a 3-month waitlist. In our first full year, Estrella Fina did around $2.6 million in sales. It was the most profitable restaurant in my entire group. My father never came by, never called, never sent a text. 6 months after opening, my mother called. I drove by Estrella Finer, she said. There was a line all the way to the sidewalk. People taking pictures. We're busy, I said. Your father heard, she said. He won't say it, but I think in his own way, he's proud. I don't need his pride, I said. I never did. I know, she said softly, but I thought you should know anyway. We talked a little longer about harmless things. The weather, a cousin's newborn, then hung up. About a year after Estrella Finer reopened, Pinnacle magazine put me on their 30 Visionaries Under 30 list. The article laid out the whole arc. Kicked out of my father's kitchen, mentored in tiny and huge restaurants, building lumber, buying La Estrella Roger, transforming it into Estrella Fina, watching it become my crown jewel. The reporter asked me, on the record, what had motivated me most in my career. Some people are fueled by support. I told her. I was fueled by the opposite. Someone I loved told me I was useless, that I wasn't made for this business, that I would never succeed. I spent the rest of my 20s proving him wrong. The article blew up in the restaurant world. It got reposted, dissected, argued about on chef forums. 3 days after it went live, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go. Hello. I answered. Camila. My father's voice. Every muscle in my body went rigid. What do you want? I asked. I read that thing, he said. That magazine. You told them I fired you in front of everyone. You told them I called you useless. I did, I said. Because that happened? Did you have to say it like that? He demanded, publicly, to the whole world. I laughed, and it came out sharp. You humiliated me in front of a full dining room, I said. 40 witnesses. You didn't seem very concerned about privacy then. That was different, he said quickly. I was angry. It was the heat of the moment. You talked to a reporter. You had time to think. And I thought, I said, and I decided to tell the truth. I gave you a job when nobody else would, he said, his voice rising. I taught you. You gave me a job in your restaurant, I said. I gave you 3 years of my life. You threw me out like I was garbage because I plated rice wrong. You made mistakes, he said. Big mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, I snapped. You just chose to give Diego every grace and hold me to a different standard. There was a pause. I was wrong, he said quietly. The words didn't register at first. What? I was wrong, he repeated. About you, about that night, about a lot of things. I didn't trust myself to answer. You built something incredible, he said. 12 restaurants, staff, people who depend on you. You bought La Estrella Roja and made it better. I told you you didn't have what it takes. I was wrong. Is there a reason for this call? I asked. My voice sounded flat in my own ears. I want to apologize, he said. 7 years late, I said. I know, he said. I know I should have called sooner. You had so many chances. I cut in. You could have called me the week after that night, or when you heard I was working for Roser, or when the first article about lumber came out. You stayed silent. I didn't know what to say, he said. I was ashamed. And then more time passed. And it got harder. So you waited until a magazine validated me, I said, until my success made it comfortable. That's not fair, he protested. Isn't it? I asked. Be honest. If that article had said I was still scraping by as a line cook, making $18 an hour, would you have picked up the phone? There was only the sound of him breathing. That's what I thought, I said. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry your judgment of me turned out to be wrong. Those are not the same thing. What do you want from me? He asked, his voice cracking. Tell me, I'll do it. Nothing, I said. The version of me who needed you to believe in her, who would have done anything to hear you say I'm proud of you. She doesn't exist anymore. You killed her in your kitchen. I swallowed. What's left? I said. Doesn't need your apology. You'll always be my daughter. He said helplessly. Biologically, I said. But family is more than blood. Family shows up. Family protects you. Family doesn't throw you under the bus to save face with a stranger. You weren't my family when I needed you most. I'm not going to pretend it's suddenly different because I'm on a list. Silence stretched between us. Goodbye, Popper, I said. Camila. When I hung up, he called back twice more that day. I didn't answer. Over the next week, he called 5 more times. Then my mother called, pleading with me to give him a chance. He's trying, Mija, she said. He doesn't know how to say these things. He had years to figure it out, I said. He waited until I was a headline. I blocked his number. 6 months later, Lumber Restaurant Group grew to 15 locations. We opened in Las Vegas, San Francisco, and Austin. Annual revenue hit about $31 million. I was 31 years old, with a net worth on paper I never would have dreamed of when I stood at that prep table in my father's kitchen. Estrella Finer became our flagship. The restaurant journalists wanted photos of. The one other chefs visited when they were in town. Articles described it as a case study in honoring tradition without being chained to it. Every time someone praised Estrella Finer, every time the line wrapped around the block, I remembered the way my father had looked at me that night and said, "You're not cut out for this." And I smiled, because I hadn't just disproved him. I had absorbed his words, turned them into fuel, and used them to build something he could never touch. Last month, I flew to Chicago to speak at a restaurant conference.
The panel was called From Line Cook to CEO, Building a Restaurant Empire. During the Q&A, a guy in the third row stood up and asked, "What's the single best piece of advice you ever got in your career?" I thought about Rosa telling me to slow down, about the chef at Via Coperta teaching me to cost a dish, about Daniel talking me through our first profit and loss statement. But those weren't the ones that had changed everything. The best advice I ever got, I said slowly, didn't sound like advice at the time. It sounded like an insult. The room went quiet. "My father told me I was useless," I said. "He told me I wasn't built for this industry, that I would fail if I tried to be a chef. And for about 24 hours, I believed him." I took a breath. "And then I decided he was wrong," I said. "Proving him wrong became my North Star." I let the words hang there. "Sometimes the people who don't believe in you give you the most powerful motivation," I continued. "If you channel that anger into work instead of self-pity, you can build something they'll never be able to take away from you." After the talk, a young woman stopped me by the side of the stage. She couldn't have been older than 23. "Chef Reyes," she said, her voice shaking a little, "my dad owns a restaurant back home. He says women don't belong on the line, that I should host or serve or," she swallowed, "or find a husband. Hearing you, it makes me think maybe I'm not crazy." "What's your name?" I asked. "Lucia," she said. I took her hand. "Lucia," I said, "don't wait around for your father's blessing. Don't waste years trying to earn something he might never be able to give you." Her eyes filled with tears. Get good, I said, relentlessly good. Learn from anyone who will teach you. Build your own track record so solid that you don't need his opinion to know who you are. She nodded, wiping her cheek. Prove yourself to yourself first, I said. Everyone else is extra. Thank you, she whispered. As I watched her walk away, I thought about that red-faced girl in the kitchen at La Estrella Roja, too proud to cry in front of her father. I thought about the apartment where I lay awake wondering if I had made the biggest mistake of my life by not going back. Back then, it felt like he had destroyed me. Now, I understand he handed me something. He gave me a wound so deep I had to either bleed out from it or build scar tissue strong enough to carry the weight of an empire. I chose the second. So when people ask me who believed in me, I tell them the messy truth. Before I believed in myself, I believed my father when he told me I was nothing, and then I spent the rest of my life making sure he would never be able to say that again.